Hey everybody, this is Bart Hanson from Crush Live Poker, and today I want to go over a couple of hands from a recent Hustler Casino live session that I had the opportunity to play on. It was actually 1 month ago from today on October 20th. I'll link to the full episode in the description, and this first hand got me turned around a little bit. I was stuck probably around 10,000 3 hours into the show, and then I picked up some pretty nice hands and I got a chance to turn it around. So here we go. All right, next hand. So I've pretty much lost every single hand here. There was a hand that I got into that was big that we'll cover maybe next time, where I flipped with pocket queens against Eli's ace king and we ran it twice and we chopped. But at this point I'm probably stuck 9 or 10,000. And then this one comes in 2 hours and 59 minutes into the show. So I think at this point, well, maybe I'm in for 27. I might be down 5 or 6,000, something like that. So this one comes in here, and you can see here that I pick up ace of diamonds, king of spades from up front, and I am going to raise it to 300 because, like I said, there were only 2 rounds of straddling. And this dude here, which he wasn't super familiar with him, Tal, but I've seen him play on the show, seems to be a little bit call happy. He makes the call in the big blind, closing the action. So we get it a heads up, and I think that this, over the course of like maybe the 4 shows that I've played on, which is 20 hours, this might actually be one of the first times where I've actually flopped something and I was like, okay, I might be able to take this for 3 streets. We'll actually cover a hand at the end of this video too, very, very similar against Tal as well. So 2 in the same show, whereas I hadn't really had any of those previously. So the pot right now is $705. I mean, there's no flush draw out there, but obviously I'm going to bet top pair. I'm definitely going to be betting top pair. People are going to be completing with King X here, King X suited, things like that. So he is going to check, and I'm going to obviously start with a bet here. I'm from +1, I bet 400, which is about, 60% of the pot, something like that. And he's going to make the call here. So obviously he can have any pair. There are straight draws, but any 8, any 7, right? Straight draws, Jack 9, 9, 10, things like that. 5, 6, 6, 9, But most of the time I'm going to be ahead here, especially to just a bet and a call, right? So the pot's going to be $1,505. Roll the turn. Now the turn's a 10. Puts a backdoor diamond draw out here, and he checks again. Now a lot of people here, and there's definitely some merit to it, very well might check this back. In the sense that in a kind of a normal game where, even though the big blind shouldn't be defending all that wide, shouldn't be defending as wide as a normal game in this setup, and that's because you're just not getting the pot odds, right? Because they're only in for 5. I mean, yeah, there's 100 in ante, but if I raise 300, the pot's like 400, it's 300 from them. They're not getting the right pot odds, but you will still see people in this game defend as light as they would in a regular game. But in a regular game in the big blind, especially against a good player, you might check this one back a fair amount. Like I said, a couple straights come in here in 9-6, in Jack 9, some 2 pair like 8-10, 7-10. Now, obviously, pair and open-ended is possible. Now losing to King to pair and open impossible, like 9-10. Now, obviously, losing to King 10. But I think this kind of demonstrates sort of the older school CLP like approach here. I just thought that this guy was going to call with more hands than he was ever going to raise bluff with. And I'm based upon what we'll see in the last hand in this video, I was definitely right about that. I also have the ace of diamonds here too as well. So he's not going to have like a backdoor diamond draw in this particular spot either. So I was just like, or some sort of like straight draw, ace 7 of diamonds, some sort of hand that picks up nut diamonds that would combo draw here. Although it's probably not ace 9 of diamonds, something like that. Although on the flop, that would be a pretty ambitious flop, but I'm not exactly sure how the ace of diamonds necessarily plays. I know that like if I had ace queen or ace jack with the ace of diamonds here, obviously it would be a pretty good double barrel, and then you'd run across diamond flushes here. But I'm still just going to bet for value in this spot. I'm not going to get scared of being raised. And if I put out a good sized bet and he check raises me, I would seriously consider folding here. I would seriously consider folding when most of those check raises are going to be like 2 pair plus. But I said to myself, I'm not slowing down here. I'm not slowing down. And if I get a favorable run out, I might bet for 3 streets. Now, there aren't that many favorable sort of runouts here, but I do bet again here into 1500, and I go 900, which is about just under 2/3 the pot, size of the pot. And I'm looking at him for pacing wise. So it's 900, 2400 in the pot, 900 for him to call. And he doesn't think about it too long in real time. And he makes the call here once again. So I'm like, okay, sure, he could have a hand like 9-8, 9-7, where I'm not going to get the 3 streets. A bad card for me here would probably be any of the interior straightening cards that bring in so the worst cards being like a 6. Yeah, I would say a jack, a 9, a 6, a jack, or a 9 would all be cards that I'm not going to really be able to take anything from multiple streets. Now, a queen gets kind of close. Obviously, an ace I would value bet, but then any brick, I'm really looking for like a deuce through a 5 that is offsuit. I mean, those would be very, very good cards, or a low board pairing card. I think an 8 or 7 would be good here too, because I don't know if he's like when I take these types of bets, remember, the turn is an overcard to an 8. So when I bet flop, sure, he can have any 8x, but I don't know how often he's continuing with 8x on the turn. Same thing with 7x. So a 7, an 8, I'm still going to value bet, deuce through 5, offsuit. And of course, a king would be awesome too. So that was kind of what I was thinking of at the time. Pot's 3305. And I was like, give me a clean river, give me a clean river. And the river rolls off a 5. Okay, that's good. And that's pretty inconsequential. Like I said, a deuce through 5. And I was just like, all right, well, here's my 3 streets. A little bit, could it be a little bit on the thin side? Sure, it could be a little bit on the thin side, but I think it's okay. By the way, no difference really between ace, king, and king, queen here. I think king, queen here is a slam dunk too. King, jack starts to get close because you're losing the king, queen, and anything else that he might be. But ace, king, and king, queen, and again, the reason why king, queen, and ace, king I think are the same is because maybe not always, but I think a lot of these guys are going to be 3-betting a lot with ace, king pre-flop, so he sort of takes that one out. But there aren't many players here at this particular table that will take this hand here for 3 streets of value, but I just thought that this was the time to do it, and I did go for it here. So with the pot being 3305, I come out and I bet here 2400, which is about 3/4. I just thought he was going to call with any king. I really thought that he was going to call with any king. Now, could I have sized up a little bit earlier on? It's possible. But 24 into 33, 1, 2, 3, so 3/4 here. And, the way that he's thinking about it here. Now, if I make this bet and he just snap calls, yeah, I'm probably not good. And the more you size up, probably the more you would value own yourself. This is a little bit chunky, but he thinks about it for a while and he calls, and I turn it over, and 3 streets versus king 3 suited finally get the 3 street hand that we've all been looking for. But remember this hand when we watch the last hand as well. All right, last hand here, and this one comes from 5 hours and 13 minutes. And at this point, this is one of the last hands. I think I had played one more hand after this, but I'm up about 15,000, and we're sort of, have about a half an hour left. So, what ended up turning, sort of starting off slow, I'm sort of getting in the groove. And this one is what I keep referencing here. This is against Tal here again. And this time he's going to open it up here to 600. Now, this is a straddled pot too, different from the last one or that one with ace king. So this is more like 100, 200, right? So it's kind of playing off of maybe 240, 250 big blinds deep. If you were to look at it as a 100, 200 game, you can see that I pick up pocket kings. So he goes to 600. He didn't seem like he was in the mood to really do a whole lot of folding. So I go to 2000 here in position, and it's going to get folded all the way back around to him. And he is going to make the call, and we are now heads up. And we go to the flop here, and it's queen deuce 4 with a couple clubs, and I am absolutely loving life here. Now, is once in a while, is he going to run into like having a set of deuces or a set of 4 or something like that? Yeah, but I'm trying to get max value for a queen. Maybe he doesn't believe me. He's going to call down with like 8s or 9s, something like that. This was a lot easier for me to think this is going to be 3 streets than the previous hand with that hand with ace king versus the king 3. I was like, oh God, give me 3 streets here. Give me 3 streets here. So he checks and I go 1800 here on this sort of disconnected board. Doesn't think too long. Me calls very, very quickly. And now we're at just under 8,000. So we roll to a brick turn here. Disconnected brick turn. It's the 8 of hearts, and it's an overcard to a 4, but it doesn't really connect with the board at all, except the fact that maybe he peels with pocket 8s. That's about it. So at this point, it doesn't really matter. Like if he's got a flush draw or a queen, he's still calling, and I'm like, I'm gonna go, at least 2/3 here on the larger side. And if he calls again, and we get a brick run out, I'm definitely gonna get 3 streets here. So I go and I bet 6,000, and you can see the pacing here. Let's just flip this back here real quick. The pacing here, he calls very, very quickly. Doesn't think about it too long and calls. And I really think he's got a queen here. I'm like, I with that type of pacing, like I said, I'm not one for big live tells, but with that type of pacing, I really think he's got a queen here a lot. And I'm like, if you give me a brick river, I am going to be overbetting the river to try to get this guy to call with a queen. So he makes the call here once again, and now we're at 20,000. So we're at 20,000, and the river's a 4, which is very, very inconsequential because he really shouldn't have much 4x here. Once in a while, if some of the hands that he's defending with 4x, like ace 4 or 5-4, I really do think they're going to be piecing off a lot on the turn. So this is one of the best cards, and as you can see, the flush draw, he can't have a 4. He can't have a 4 here with a flush draw, like as opposed to if it was like queen of clubs, deuce of clubs, 4 of hearts or something like that, where once in a while he can run into 4x. So he checks here once again, and I've just got money signs here in my eyes because I'm like, this guy's got a queen here and he's not going to fold. So he checks and kind of think about the sizing here. And then actually, I mean, I know that I'm going to be betting a lot. What I was actually really thinking about here, which is kind of funny, is the mechanics of my bet. What I mean by that is, how am I going to put these chips into the pot that might make it look bluffy? So I always talk about chip spiking. There's a lot of different material on the site for those of you that are new. When I talk about chip spiking, what that means is I like to use large chips early on, especially at mid to low stakes games, for value. Like if I'm betting, say, 85, instead of like putting in a bunch of $5 chips, I like to put in a $100 chip. The reason why I do that is because I feel like a lot of recreational players have no idea about the pot size. So if you put large chips in, by the time you get to the river, they can more readily and more easily see the pot size when you're betting for value. So it allows you to bet more because they're like, oh, there's like 5 $100 chips in there as opposed to a pile of $5 chips. That's chip spiking. But here, we already have these chips in the middle. So I was just kind of thinking, like, what is going to possibly make it look like I'm bluffing? Like, maybe I'll be methodical and make it and put in like a lot of individual chips. Maybe that will actually make it look as bluffy as possible. I knew I was going to go over the size of the pot. I'm literally right now thinking about the mechanics of how I'm going to actually form these chips to get the highest propensity of call. So you can see a stack of green is 20,000, right? So a stack of green is 20,000. They're 1K chips. So I go with the 25 like that. I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm just going nuts, but instead of like betting my browns, I just go like this for 25,000 for an overbet. So I go 25,000. Now he starts tanking, and I'm like, oh my God, this guy's gonna be great. This is gonna be great. Like he's gonna have a queen. He's gonna have a queen. But it wasn't meant to be. I have no idea why he was tanking for so long here. He ended up having a busted huge draw. Now, I want to pipe the sound up here, and then I'll come back with comment.
What a fold.
I never fold queen, just so you know.
Queen's fold?
I never fold queen, never.
Oh. That's what he was targeting.
You know I know. You know I don't fold the queen. You know that. You know that.
It's why I bet 25,000.
And I was telling the truth. It is why I bet 25,000. Like, I don't think that this guy is ever folding a queen. Now, what's interesting here is that I took the small sizing on the flop. He's got 5-6 of clubs. So he flops a combo draw. Gutter here. Now, I'm probably not going to be doing much folding, but that doesn't mean, of any type of value hand, even sometimes like three betting, even sometimes like betting like nines through jacks here. It looks so bizarre for him to check raise this board, especially when he's not going to have much deuces and fours on the flop. But it still doesn't mean he doesn't get to check raise. Now, on the turn, he picks up a double gutter here, which is kind of crazy. Double gutter. And again, when I take the 6,000, if he were to jam here, I would have been more concerned that he hit an 8 on the turn, and it probably would have been really close, because I know, here's the thing, like, even on paper, if you're not supposed to fold an overpair when someone check raises the turn in this particular spot, I think this is empirical evidence that, at least with this guy, he's playing draws passively, so when he does check raise the turn, he's more value heavy. So you could sort of lean towards more of a fold. I'm not sure what I would have done. And then, I mean, I ran well in the session in the sense that the cards went my way a little bit. Obviously, beating Mike X, with the ace, and then obviously in the 4-bet pot, Eli sort of missing. But God, I got to be honest with you, like if a 3 or 7 comes here, I probably make the same bet and he's going to check jam on me. I mean, obviously not on a front door club. Oh God, if a front door club came and he checked, it would be easier to bet with kings with the king of clubs. I still might bet. If I bet again, though, he's probably going to call on front door club. But if the 3 or 7 comes, he checks, I bet, and then he check raises. That's not going to be a bluff, and it's really an issue. Well, I mean, it's very easy for me to go 25,000 here on this card. I don't have to worry about any of that shit because it's less likely that there's going to be full houses and stuff like that. If I go 25 on a 3, the pot would be like, this is going to be like 44. It's going to be like 70. And I'm going to have like only 13 left. I mean, that is very committing. So I think I'm not allowed to take those sizings. But a 7 is, oh man. Yeah, I mean, I think, God, I got to be honest with you. If I think of an offsuit 7 comes or a 3, I might get my money. Especially if I go pot, because I'm betting 20 into 20, it's 60, and I'm going to be getting 4-1. If I go pot on the river here for 20 on one of those cards and he check shoves on me, I'm going to have like just under 20 left, and the pot's going to be like 80-20 for me to call. Oh, so I mean, that's, these are the subtle things here. Offsuit 3, offsuit 7 is going to be an absolute disaster for me. But overall, nice little session. And then when Feldman came out, he told me that I was actually the big winner on the night, which is, I would say, somewhat surprising. I didn't necessarily know that I was the big winner because Wesley had won. He was up a truckload, but he lost a hand to Kennedy. And then we'll take a look here at the VPIPs. Again, I'll be going over more hands on the next episode. So, because there's a lot more other hands, maybe even over 2 parts. You can see 33% now. This is a little bit artificial, Nick, because he limped in with a bunch of garbage from up front. The only time I limp in this game is like over limping like the button, but I was playing 24-33. And you can see that I won 26,405. And then I won, maybe like 20 to 22 off of the show.